What are some interesting or fun Christmas traditions you follow? My family has a tradition of leaving riddles on cards and guessing what the gift is before opening. We go round one by one, reading our hint out loud so everyone can guess, then open it and show the room. Ends up taking like 5 hours for everyone to get through their gifts, but it's always a fun time. This sounds really cool. It is, everyone brings their own style to it. My mom always writes some sort of poem or haiku, the grandparents word it like Jeopardy questions, my uncle packs it in some really weird box, so you have no clue what it is, etc. 5 hours is kind of long, but I like the idea of having a family activity rather than ripping through presents so quickly you don't remember who gave you what, and by a few days later you don't even remember what you got. Wife and I order from the same Chinese restaurant every Christmas Eve. We eat from there almost exclusively on Christmas Eve. We don't do much Chinese through the year regularly. Started one Christmas Eve when we were both feeling lazy and hasn't stopped 12 plus years now. A traditional Jewish Christmas. Source: I'm Jewish. I learned this when Elena Kagan was doing her hearing to be confirmed to the Supreme Court. They asked her what she did on Christmas, and she said, like all Jews, I was probably at a Chinese restaurant. She blew the lid wide open on the ultimate Jewish conspiracy of all. We invented Christmas, we wrote the songs, we built the ad campaigns, we even made Jesus just so we could get the Chinese restaurants to ourselves. My grandpa would always get up on the roof about an hour after our bedtime and stomp around on the roof with sleigh bells edit. Thanks for the awards. Beepa would have been proud to hear that his Christmas spirit had gotten noticed on the internets. That's some wholesome dedication, seriously. He was the best grandpa OE. What heritage does Beepa come from? I wish I had a cooler answer, but it came from me and my sister being unable to pronounce grandpa. That's the same situation I had with my brother. I couldn't say brother, so I said Bubba and it stuck. Every Christmas the kids in the house have wrapping paper put over the entrances to their rooms so they get to rip through it in the morning. It originally started as a way to keep a certain kid in when he kept coming out early and opening presents before everyone was awake. My husband's family did this too. Except they would wrap the doorway to the living room and everyone would have to wake up, get dressed, and have a big sit-down breakfast before they could bust through the wrapping paper barrier and get to the presents. I cannot imagine how you could get 4 kids to be that patient, but somehow his mother managed it. That's pretty genius and sounds like a great family moment. Going to be saving this one for later use. My family would have to sit on the stairs and get a group picture before we could go into the family room to see the presents. We still do it. As a kid I just wanted to go in to see the presents, but my parents always woke up before us and we'd have to pass their room to get down the stairs. Now that I'm older I think my mom never actually went to bed. I think she spent that night wrapping the presents and getting stuff ready for the morning. Every year my wife and I buy an ornament for our tree that corresponds with something that happened that year. So we have a tree filled with all of these weird wacky ornaments like a tennis ball. We started playing tennis that year, Swedish Chef, Europe trip, ship Captain Nutcracker, our first cruise, amongst many others. It's such a fun tradition in December to debate what we to get and then finding something. And then reliving them all when we put them up. I'm assuming this year's ornament is a roll of toilet paper? We debated that or a mask, but decided we didn't want to remember that from this year. So instead we got a hiking shoe since that had been pretty much our only activity this year. I made a no toilet paper rule for our Christmas tree. Words I never thought I'd have to say. Each year we cut a round off the bottom of our Christmas tree. We label it with the year. Over time it makes a sweet display reminder of years past. My wife and I started doing this after we got married. We also got a wood-burning tool to engrave the year and an image to represent something significant from the year, then turn them into ornaments. For instance, when we traveled a lot one year we did a compass. I wonder what you're engraving this year. Just set the thing on fire. 2020. This is a good idea. Then you can gather up the ash and put it in a clear ball ornament. Edit. Oh my gosh. My first award. Thank you, kind stranger. It's a Christmas miracle. We have signs all over our house spelling out Leon instead of Noel. It started out as a joke because my dad is dyslexic, but it stuck, and we even named our dog Leon, and we've been doing it since I can remember. I always changed my mother-in-law's Noel candles to say "El no." She would ask me if I did it and I'd say "El no." She found me amusing and I miss her. I love that last sentence. Thanks for sharing a little detail about her. Hope you and yours have a happy El no. My family does this too, has been for decades. My grandparents have these Noel candle holders, and everyone will sneakily rearrange them into Leon when they're not looking. Then my grandparents put them back and repeat all season. They said on a recent Zoom they're sad that nobody will be there in person this year to spell Leon. Every year my family buys each other member a gag joke small gift, then writes a poem about it for the recipient to read on Christmas Eve. It's probably the highlight of the entire season for me, as it's always filled with laughter at how terrible we all are at poetry. No matter how old we all get, this is a really fun way to bring everyone back to that root joy of spending time together. This year it will be virtual, but still fun. Sounds like some Dutch Sinterklaas tradition got to you. The poem with a present is very common then, on the 5th of December. I love that last sentence. Thanks for sharing a little detail about her. Hope you and yours have a happy El no. That sounds so fantastic. Do you get to hear the poem before you get your gift so that you can guess what it is? Can you give us an example of a poem? How long do you spend writing your poem? My parents were broke when I was a kid, but you'd never know it from Christmas. They always went all out, put money on credit cards, etc. One Christmas we were particularly broke, but Dad went out and spent probably most of his paycheck on last-minute gifts. When we got home, my mom had been with us all day, and since there was no money, she hadn't gone food shopping. All we had were some cheap hot dogs and canned beans. My parents put the beans in a pot over the fire, grabbed the hot dog cooker from when we went camping, and threw the dogs on over the fire too. My sister and I loved it so much, we did it again the following Christmas. Eventually we weren't quite so poor. The $2 and hot dogs became Nathan's, then Sabrits, then Butcher Bratwursts. The beans went to B&M, then eventually fancy gourmet shit. But my sister and I are now adults with our own families, and even on years where we're not together, our entire family has hot dogs and beans on Christmas Eve. Edit. Thanks for all the kind comments everyone, and thanks for my first Reddit silver too. Since my family won't be spending the holidays together, this really brightened my day. Merry Christmas. Edit 2. Wow, my first gold. Thanks again everyone, glad you all enjoyed hearing about our holiday tradition. Merry Christmas. Edit 3. A platinum. Thank you so much. I truly can't believe it. Merry Christmas. As soon as this pandemic is over and we can once again have Christmas gatherings, my sister and I can get back to smacking the out of each other with cardboard wrapping paper tubes. We're in our 50s, BTW. Cardboard tubes are the best. I save all of my tubes for sword fights with my 3-year-old. Sometimes I tell her that daddy's a dragon and she should attack to steal his gold, lol. Reminds me of about 8 years ago or so when my family was visiting my grandparents in Northern California for Christmas, and the day after my dad and I decided to go see the waterfall on the way down from Mount Tamalpais. We had just gotten on the path when we passed a young dad and his son who must have been about 6, and they had cardboard shields and wrapping paper tube swords. Kid was happily skipping along, and the dad turned to us and said the path is clear of monsters. That's so sweet. The tradition in our house was whatever you got for Christmas, you had to wear to the pub at lunchtime on Christmas Day. I've been to the pub in PJs, 4 pairs of socks, running vest and shorts, etc. lol. This one is my favorite. I'm sure you purposefully gift each other some ridiculous clothes because of this. What's the craziest thing you've gotten someone else to wear? It this year then, pal. That is hysterical. I'd love to be sitting in a bar and a whole family shows up wearing a bunch of clothes that make no sense. God, I miss going to the pub today, drink and have a good time. What if you only got gift cards? A trip to the pub might be a bit chilly. NORAD Track Santa Edit. The Google Santa Tracker is also really fun. My family also does this, and even though most of us don't believe in Santa anymore, it's still exciting for some reason. Agreed. We started this when the kids were little, they're 21 and 19 now, but it's still fun to check out where Santa is. Can't get them to scurry off to bed when Santa heads for the US East Coast anymore, but it was great for a number of years. Yes. My sister and I used to get so unbelievably excited listening to NORAD on the way home from my nanny's on Christmas Eve. We stopped believing many years ago, but we still throw it on for the nostalgia. Something a little different, I suppose. We always have lasagna Christmas Eve, day before Christmas Eve. We also open our presents Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day, but on Christmas Day we would always go to our grandparents' house to open presents with them. In Poland it's normal to open presents after Christmas Eve dinner. Which itself is quite interesting. It should consist of 12 non-meat dishes, lots of fishes though. Is it normal to open presents in Christmas Day, 25th, where you live? Here in Germany, it's normal to have presents on Christmas Eve, 24th, but my family always does it on Christmas Day instead, which is strange here. I think it's normal, in America at least, to open them Christmas Day, but I've also known a few families that do it Christmas Eve instead. Usually it's because they're doing something with grandparents or something on Christmas Day though. In Latino America, we open gifts on the 24th at midnight, 25th technically, then we'll eat something special like tamales and drink punch and sweet brit, a warm punch with lots of fruit. The next day you go to church. Also Latinos celebrate Three Kings Day. That's technically when you get gifts. The 25th you go to church. Which is technically Christmas and what it really entails.